Thanks everyone time today to join my presentation. And I had this China startup ecosystem introduction shared with you guys in Djibouti. So, but we couldn't finish the deep dive into the like details startup case in China, right? As I mentioned earlier to you guys, this one will be more focused to the cases study, like the famous Chinese internet giant, how they're doing, how they become successful, what lessons we learned from them, and hopefully that stories, cases could be a kind of inspiration for your startups, right? And also the failures, the patterns potentially could be something you guys can use in your startup. And because we had this lecture already, so I'll just quickly go through the previous slides to remind you guys what we already mentioned in Djibouti, right? And like Zoe introduced, I'm a co-founder of Roselake. I worked in incubator in Africa in 2016 and 17, so got quite a lot exposures to the startup ecosystem in Africa. So after my work in Africa, I went back to China, worked in venture capital space, and start to learn the ecosystem in China, then join one of the largest global Web3 incubators and start to explore more business opportunities, startups all over the world. So for myself, I think there's a good lessons we're seeing in the history of Chinese startups, right? And also I'm seeing something happen exactly in Africa. I'm not saying you guys should copy everything in China because I think Africa and China is very different, right? But the failures, the patterns, that's something you guys can borrow, can learn, can benchmark and compare to your own startups. And also, if you have any question, just feel free to stop me and ask the questions. I hope this one can be as much interactive as we had in Djibouti, right? That's what the investor of Facebook, Excel Ventures founder Jim Breyer's famous quotations being a quote by a lot of investors, especially who are really focusing in Africa, right? And the comparison is not just you guys, right? We use mobile phone every day. We almost live on our smart devices in China, like our whole life, work, life, and
Recording
everything
in progress.
is
Recording
built
in progress.
So I think there's so that was the situation being quoted by many investors. This is a comparison to what happened to Africa, and a lot of you guys are asking for the slides. Sorry for the delay, and I think Zach shared this graph to you guys, so you guys can take a look. Like what we're really, it's all about Shanghai. It's all about big cities like Shenzhen in China, right? We fulfill the demands of these first tier cities in China. Then that's come to most of the startups, right? Most of the users are coming in those big cities, right? And until today, till today, when the competition really going to competitive, right? Then people start to go into the second tier, third tier, even fourth, fifth tier, even in a village in China. But when we're talking about internet startups, right? Most of them start from the big cities, first tier cities with huge population, high urbanization rate, right? Then start to expand outside the big cities. So that's the rate. Worth to mention, I think you guys still remember, I mentioned like in the early 2014, there was another pandemic happened in China. It's a SARS, right? And I don't know how many of you guys still remember. That's where Chinese start to adapt the online shopping behavior. That's how big companies, Alibaba and other e-commerce platform and the delivery platform becoming to take off, right? Because of the sudden change of the environment of the society, people start to find another way to adapt to the situation, and that gives opportunity to a lot of startups nowadays in China. There's the survivors of that period of the time becoming the largest internet startup in China, even in the world. So that's something you guys are already familiar. You can look at the deck, and that's what happened in Africa. That's something very similar to China, right? We have a very long-term period. There's a lack of investment. There's lack of liquidity, right? But when people see now the opportunities in China, like the growth economy, growth population, urbanization rate, penetration of internet access, there's huge capital flow into China. That's what happened to Africa. You guys already know, and also most of you guys already heard my pitch to introduce Roselake, so I'll skip this part. And like really focus is, I hope this course could be a very interactive session. Not just I deliver what happened in China. I do want some of the reflections to you guys, see if there's something similar, if there's something we can adapt to current situation in Africa, right? And I'll go quick on this to remind you guys. While China is becoming the largest digital economy in the world, it's because of the user base, right? It's very easy to scale the users, right? If your application built by 3 or 4 months, you only have less than 1 million users, then you are the one going to lose your competition. That's what kind of a expectation from the investors in China to other emerging market, right? If we're talking about the population rate, is a key. It's a key. It's the key of the investment. You need to show the proof how you can grow your user base fast, right? And that's what happened in China. You guys can quickly check the deck. I'm going to skip this part. And also the period of the evolution of the venture capital in China, that takes 35 years journal. There was very long period of time, as I mentioned, right? There's lack of liquidity, and people doesn't really have the ecosystems. People are not familiar with the concept of VC, and there's no market for exit event happen. So yeah, and I think we, even nowadays in Africa, right, we're still looking for a way to get access as an investment, right, and also looking for more type of investment vehicles coming to Africa, not just a foreigner investment, right, for foreign capitals, not just donation funds, not the money from USA, not the money from China aids, right, more like sustainable and local generated capitals to this market. And the internet startup and VC relationship, you can look at the deck. When the Cisco ecosystem start to spinning, if we have the good loop, right, the capital innovation, the success story of create returns, right, then investors, entrepreneur becoming the investors, the money will come back to the ecosystem to start to circulate like a cycles and cycles. Then we will have a very growing big VC investment market in Africa. That's what I'm looking for. I'm expecting happen in few years. Okay, so looking at the first sectors, right? We're talking about fintech. It's not just because fintech is huge in China. Also, fintech is most dominate attractive sectors in Africa. And in China, we have the big thesis around the investment, around what happened in 20 years. I think that's also the core thesis for Africa, which is the digital transformation, right? The most important part for the digital transformation is building digital infrastructures, as well as a way, a tools, a methodology to improve the efficiency and to reduce the cost, right? That's a very key point in the past 20, 30 years of the technology booming in China. We bring everything online from offline, and also trying to digitize every steps in order to make the efficiency and to speed up every process in every sectors. So that's what happened in China, especially. That's also happened in fintech as well. In China, the key sectors, if you look at the deck, it's a payment, lending, of course, and wealth management, insurance, and credit scoring. If you look at Africa, there's a huge difference. The remittance is not the major sectors in China, but in Africa, remittance for sure is one of the major sectors when we're talking about fintech. The reason is more like the regulation issues. So and also the currency and also the way how the financial policies works in China is very different. So that's why remittance is not the major sectors in China, but the payment is right. So if you look at the development stage, which we have three stages already. 1.0, which start from 2004 to 2012, which is electronic payments, right? And that's how the internet or the fintech finances begins in China. And that's very easy to understand, right? If you look at what interest rates, what pay stack are doing, and Flatwave, right? They're building electronic payments, which is the digital infrastructure I was talking about, and which is also very important part of the internet startup that empowers the whole ecosystem. Because if there's no money flows to your business behavior, there's no way you can make money. So that's very important. The second stage, which is mobile payment, right? It's not just the mobile device penetration. Everyone has a mobile phone. It's because people trying to explore the different scenarios, right? To make people to start to using more and to try the different way to moving the money through the devices, right? And for example, in China, we have this little red pocket habits, right? So in the festivals, especially in Chinese New Year's, we give the small envelopes to others, right? Means good luck and wish you next year have fortune. So it's a very traditional behavior. Usually we use this red bag to wrap the small monies to give to the young generations, to share with the friends. But WeChat are able to digitize that process. In one of the Chinese New Year, I'll mention the details later. They digitized the process, which is very quickly becoming one of the leading payment players in China. And then it's 3.0 stages, start from 2016. Then people start to incorporate more and more technologies, right? Start to using big data, start to using AIs, and hires a lot of data scientists to work on the algorithms, to work on the data structures, data infrastructures, then to do something like a credit analyzing, and to do a lot of revolutions by using the new technologies, right? And then that's where the regulations start to really put efforts to those fintech startups, right? And because of the crazy growth at that stage, and something already beyond the control of the governments, right? Then the government start to publish a lot of regulations, right, policies to limit the crazy growth or to limit the bad behaviors of the fintech startups, fintech companies in China, right, by issuing license, by issuing approval process, right, and the reporting type of structures to the regulators in China, that becoming something very, very common nowadays, which gives the entrance barrier to fintech in China nowadays. So if you're building fintech in China, it's not very easy today because there are a lot of regulation compliance you have to go through, and there's a lot of license you need in order to run specific activities in China. And in Africa, we're not in that stages yet, but we're already seeing the governments, right, they start to looking at the activities of the startups in different market, right, trying to build a sandbox, trying to build licenses in different countries in order to manage or the behaviors of the fintech companies in Africa. So well, I don't. You guys can look at the deck about the market scale in China, and if you look in the conversion rate, so one Chinese dollar, 1 yen, it's about $1 is equivalent to 7.2 yen. So if you want to calculate the numbers to dollar, then you just divide the number by 7.2. That was roughly the US dollar volumes on my deck. And also in China, the digital fintech adoption rate is 87%, which considering one of the highest in the world. But you know, like in Africa, countries like Kenya, even Nigeria, the adoption rate is high as well. I went to Somalia after my Djibouti trip. In Somalia, the digital payment rate, penetration rate, close to 100%. Even the beggars on the street, they give you their numbers, then you pay them to their digital wallet, no cash, and they're using dollars. And I think it's similar to some of the Southern African countries as well, right? So then look at the cases. If we're talking about the payment, of course, Alipay is the most famous players in the world, right? And a lot of startups in Africa, fintech company, payment company, they told me they want to be Alipay in Africa, right? But if you want to be Alipay in Africa, you have to look at the stories, how they becoming Alipay nowadays. So Alipay actually was a company from Alibaba. I don't know how many of you guys know the story. So early days, right, when we have an e-commerce platform, payment becoming an issue. People always worry about, if I give you the money, what happens if you run away, right? If I pay the money, what happens if your product is really bad? How about the return policies? How can I protect my money? Then by borrowing the PayPal idea from eBay in early days, right? Earlier Alipay was founded by Jack Ma, right? Just to purely protect the payment process through the Alibaba. Even in first couple years, there's people can only use Alipay in Alibaba, the e-commerce platform. There's no way you can use Alipay outside the online web shopping site, right? In 2008, that was 4 years after the Alipay born, right? Then people feels like the convenience by using the payment. That's also the when the mobile device becoming the adoption rate of mobile device growing in China. There is a payment scenarios outside Alipay happen just because it's much easier compared to using cash or compared to using bank cards in China, because in China people are not using get used to pay by the bank cards. Even Visa credit cards are not popular in China. So we have this leapfrog process by passing the Visa and MasterCard stage in China. So my wife works in the bank in the credit card system. He told me it's the competition, the adoption to ask people to using credit card in China is very difficult. So in 2011, when Alipay started using QR code, that's another moment. A lot of street vendors, right, small business owners, start to using Alipay just because how easy the process becoming, how efficient the payment becoming by adopting adopt a QR code. A lot of questions people ask me in China why people in Africa still using USSD typing the numbers, right? If there's a whole very long line up in the shop, right? If you still typing the numbers, that becoming very slow. I don't have the answer at this moment. I know the internet, the data rate is still very expensive in Africa, right? There's always a lot of reasons not using QR code. Even if you opened up your M-Pesa or something similar, there's a QR code payment option already exists, but still people not get used to that. So for me, QR code, maybe you don't need QR code in the future, but still that's just a way to improve the efficiency, right? To make people pay fast. So in a certain time when there are a lot of customers, you can make your payment process much faster compared to the cash process, cards process. And 2013, that's when things becoming very interesting. When a lot of people starting using WeChat, right? Alipay, and becoming one of the major payment online payment tools or payment tools, then people start to put the money into the Alipay. They're not withdraw the cash from Alipay to the bank. And Alipay realized we should do something very interesting. Then they built this Yuebao, which is a small saving product. Whenever you put your small balance to the Yuebao, which is a separate account, but you can digitally shift the money from your Yuebao to your wallet, right? Then there's interest rate applied to the Yuebao. And then people then think, if that's the case, we don't even need a bank. So a lot of more people start to, especially young people, right? Then they start just put the money to the Yuebao rather than the bank. And then Ali started building a product below. Okay, so then Ali started building a fintech product around that. There's investment options coming to the Alipay, so people can buy funds. People can buy small investment product through Yuebao, and then that's the time Alipay becoming the major fintech players in China. Even banks in China feels the competition, the pressures from Yuebao. In 2014, Ant Finance formed, right, and then the spin out from Alibaba becoming a separate organization group to really focus to the financial services integration. Then in 2015, there's Zhima Credit, which is a credit scoring system built by Alipay, right? Then they gives the ability people they can loan the money to the people, which becoming one of the most revenue generated product for Alipay. And then 2016, they built their own bank, which is one of the first internet bank. It's called Mayi Ant Bank in China. And now then that days they becoming such a fintech giant in China, includes everything. It's one of the earliest super app built on a payment system. Remember, guys, I mentioned to you guys, a lot of people talking about super app, right? But super app is not a super app the day one. They always start from one feature, one functions, right? Payment, mobility, right? Or social tools. Then once they got strong foundations base, then they start to expand the features, functions, and then they become a super app. So it's not they want to be the super app on the day one, build everything day one. They always start from one feature, from one area, then becoming a super app nowadays. Alipay is one of the case. They start from the payment tools, then grow around the users, right, to adapt to get more user to use their application. That's their focus. And in order to let the people to using their app stay on their app more and more in terms of time, they building more features, becoming a super app, right? And nowadays they already becoming an ecosystem, right? Remember one of the things I was mentioned to you guys. What is a super app ecosystem to me? Not just what I just mentioned, right? They have this ecosystem can provide enough space for others to build a company on top of it to make a lot of money, right? There's people in China, company startups in China, they building the digital solution around Alipay. For example, one of the company I know, I can't remember if it's already IPO'd or not. They they're just helping the vendors, small shops in the different cities, right, to have the QR code in front of their shops, in front of the counters, right? Then people can scan their code to pay for that. Just by replacing that, this company will already becoming the unicorn. So yeah, that was the ecosystem around Alipay. And also 2022, Alipay trying to IPO, but because what I was mentioned, right, they grow too fast. They already have a bank. They're trying to disrupt the traditional bank in China. Then the regulators stop their IPO process till today. They're still not really be able to IPO. Yeah. So if you look at the evolution path, right, start from payment tool, becoming a mobile platform in terms of payment. Now they're becoming a fintech ecosystem. I think that's already beyond the super app. And if you look at how their products, right, every product is on their app. They already have a 2 trillion AUM in China, and there's 29 million SMEs are using their bank, and there's 350 million users has a credit scoring on their system, and there was 310 models in terms of the lending, right? So nowadays they're not just in China. A lot of people in Southeast Asia are using them. I know Philippines is one of the major countries for them. They're expanding to Africa as well, and expanding to Middle East as well. And one of the strategies they go with the Chinese expats, right? So they like, for example, I used to live in Canada. So they're trying to work with all the Chinese restaurants, Chinese supermarket in Canada. So people, when I was international student or new immigrant to Canada, I'm able to using my Alipay to pay these shops directly, and also the money I use is RMBs, which reduced me a lot of currency remittance issue, and for that scenario, right? If you look at what happened to my Alipay, it comes everything. There's ID, there was you can buy house, right? You can even learn knowledge on the Alipay, right? And then there's on the right, that was an investment product they built. So on this Yuebao, you basically can buy insurance, you can invest gold, you can invest stock, you can buy mutual fund, you can just buy easy saving product. The second player is WeChat. So WeChat, I think that's one of the company you guys are already very familiar. Starts as social tools, right? And WeChat is equivalent WhatsApp in China, but almost everyone using WeChat. We put our work, our family life, friends' life, and social work or daily business activities on WeChat. So by using WeChat, you can pay, you can share your daily life, then you can have a group chat, you can have everything on it. So it becoming one of the most important digital infrastructures in China to people here, right? So if you look at the history of the WeChat, right? Earlier it was people saying it was the payment coming from QQ, right? But actually it's not, because the QQ system is very different. WeChat is it's a separate social network, social tools independent to QQ in China, right? And they got the payment license in 2011, which they didn't compete with Alipay in the early stage until 13, 14, right? And 2013, that's actually WeChat Pay started to integrate with WeChat, right? And like I mentioned, 2014, that was the first time they digitized the red pocket process on their tools, right? And just by the Chinese New Year, it's like a 7 days holiday to us. Just in that holidays, right, there is more than 7 million of the red pocket sent to the WeChat group. Like people becoming really crazy about the red pocket. It becoming like a kind of a game, and also it's a fun process to play with your family members, with your friends, with your colleagues through WeChat, right? And 2015, that was the time the red pocket on WeChat reached to 1 billion. So that was still in single day. Sorry, remember that in single day, there's 1 billion of the red pocket sent through WeChat, right? And 2015 and 2016, that was the time WeChat start to really do a face-to-face competition with Alipay. And because of the easy to use features through friends, right? I can easily transfer your money just through a chat. So actually, that was the time WeChat really grabbed the market of Alipay. Right? In 2017, it reached 1 billion daily transaction volumes, right? And 2022, it's already becoming the second largest payment system in China. So if you look at the market share in China, WeChat Pay and Alipay already get 90% of the market, and others they're still fighting for the 10% of the market, the payment market in China. So if you look at the lessons we learned from WeChat, still that was a lessons shared by the entrepreneur course in China. First is a culture integration, right? Because they find the opportunity to digitize the small process for the traditional festivals, right? They really becoming wired in that. So that was a very important growth hacking lesson from China nowadays, right? And also social is the very key part in terms of the growth in China. If you look at another case I'm going to share with you guys, Pinduoduo Case, they take the social factors very seriously, right? Becoming the big competitors to Alibaba, just because the social mechanism they got, and the user acquisition, that's very important. In China, WeChat Pay and Alipay, there's no transaction cost. It's free. So that's why people prefer to use it. I know a lot of countries in Africa, the transaction cost is still high. So I feel that was one of the huge roadblock to a lot of the internet startups, right? Or a growth, right? If you look in the transaction amount versus the transaction cost, I think that's very high. But if you look at some country like Somali, there's no transaction cost. So, but I believe that's a trend. One day there will be very low transaction cost for the digital payment, or even to free in Africa, right? And also the competition. Now I was mentioned to you guys, the competition in China is is very, very huge and very, very bad, right? Just because how crowded the market is. If you have an idea in day one, the second day there's 100 of the copycats coming to your idea. So some of them, they may already have money. Some of them, they may already have a strong engineering team. So the competition in China is huge. That's why when WeChat launched, then Alipay spent a lot of time, a lot of money to do the face-to-face competitions. So that was a screenshot I got from my WeChat Pay today. It's relatively clean compared with Alipay, but still there's services you can charge your cell phone, pay your bill. There's a donation. You can donate to some of the project from Tencent. There's transportation. You can buy a train ticket. You can order Didi, which is Uber equivalent in China. You can book hotel, right? And you can directly do a shopping through the WeChat mini program without leaving the system. So another fintech cases that happens after 2011. So first one is Lufax, which is wealth management. When GDP grow, and then people need wealth management services, right? And not put the money to the saving account. It's not enough to a lot of people. Then internet application becoming a very easy solution because you don't need to find someone to consult. They can push a lot of different fintech product to you, right? And also P2P, and that was what happened in Africa at this moment. When we're looking at 2013, 2014, there was a crazy time of the P2P product in China. Some of them are really related, some of them are not. So which caused a lot of bad things happen there. So but that P2P behaviors also encourage a lot of users start to using the internet services to deal with their wealthy, to deal with their money, to deal with their saving. Then people start to know you can using your mobile devices to invest something, right? And 2020, after like 9 years after the company founded, it go listed on New York exchanges. I'll put the stock symbol to the slides. You guys can check. And another one, it's a JD Digital, which is a company coming from Jingdong. They took the different path, right? Because Jingdong is e-commerce platform, right? And most of them are dealing B2C. They don't have they connect the business to consumers, right? So there's huge demands for the supply chain finance, and that's how when they seeing the opportunity, a lot of clients along the supply chain, they need supports. So they have this scenario. Then they build this JD Digits Jingdong supply chain finance to support the small on their business platform. Vinny, I think you need to Philius, please mute.
Philius, can you mute?
Yeah.
Jerry is okay, and we have several questions collected from the audience.
Sure, let me finish the slides, then we go to the questions, right? The other one's a Du Xiaoman, which is a company, it's founded by Baidu. Baidu is one of the largest social search engine in China, and they are pretty focused to the deep technology, such as AI, such as data and robustic machines, even robo cars. That's what they're focusing. So they build this Du Xiaoman, which mostly providing consumer finance to consumers, right? By leveraging their AI technologies, right? And nowadays they're already becoming one of the largest internet consuming products in China. And yes, so if you look at the different fintech players, right? They have a different strategic focus. One is company like Lufax, they're focusing to the wealth management as an institution, right? And the Jingdong, they focus on their SME supply chain finance to building scenario finance, right? Du Xiaoman because the user base in Baidu in China, so they're using their technology to push their financial services to their users. Right. So if you look at the common success factors for the fintech company in China nowadays, first is the risk control, right? That's very, very important. I look at a lot of startups in Africa, the risk control part is very weak, and people didn't spend much time to have a compliance process to embed the risk control. So when the bad, say the default happens, right, to the payments, there you guys will, the startup will be in trouble. And also technology, the fintech is the most advanced sectors to invest in the technology, right? Nowadays, if you look at the US, AI becoming the fundamental things the fintech company trying to embed it, blockchain technology, stable coins, right? These technology are early used in the fintech sectors, right? And also data is very important. Looking at your users, right? That's your most valuable data, and also user behaviors to analyze how all the data on your platform or on other platform to integrate with your product is very important. And then in China, everyone is trying to build the ecosystem. They think the ecosystem can grow your customers, right? And also let your customer to use your application more and more. Yes, we can come to the question.
Okay, hi Jerry. So I have collected some of the questions that our students have. The first question is, I think it's in the first beginning of our slides that you mentioned people didn't understand about VCs. The student's question is, do you mean by startups or investors, or who didn't understand about VC first in the Chinese ecosystem?
Right. So in early days, right, there's a very limited financial tools, right? And people probably only having a saving account in very early days, right? And the knowledge of the financial knowledge are very limited to a lot of people, even to the people in the governments, right? So when there's a company trying to start from zero, right, there's a very limited way to get the money outside their family or friends, or hard to get the money from bank as well. So there's no one knows there's a VC exists till some of the people in the US, right? They bring the VC concept back to China. It takes many years to educate people how to work with VCs, right? Why you should take the money, why VC invest too, right? Most of the VC, I'm not talking about the impact investment. I'm talking about the normal VCs, right? We're investing for the growth of the company in order to get returns. To get the returns, most important part to VC, but be able to leverage the money to grow. That's also very important to the startups, right? So now, even nowadays in Africa, and I think a lot of people still don't know how to deal with VC. Why? To think so sometimes when you're trying to raise, right, try to wear the shoes of the VC. Like for example, for some of the financial investors, right? How can you give the return to them? If the focus is only to the return, are you able to get the money? Should you get the money? How should you use the money to fulfill the requirement, the demands from the VC? So there are a lot of ways to learn what VC works, and different VC, they have their different strategies, right? To understand their strategies is very important. If you have both the money from the impact investors and the financial investors, their demands is different, right? In order to fulfill both sides, that takes a lot of work.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. So for the second questions, Beganza wants to get your insight on health tech landscape in China and how it grows over time, and how are consumers responding to these solutions in terms of trust and usage, and what is the regulation process like, especially for foreign startups, and what's the current investment schemes, who's active, and where are the big opportunity?
Okay, so I hear your question. I was trying to think how should I do the health care sectors, because it's not easy, right? So in China, like I mentioned, in the period of the SARS, right, then people start to using digital services, right, and that's where we see the first booming of the healthcare sectors coming up, right? But like what happened in Africa, a lot of people are building a telemedical systems in China, right? Trying to remotely check what's going on in China, and a lot of startups fail on that. Like you said, chatting to someone on the phone doesn't gain the trust from the patient, right? A lot of patients still trying to go to the doctors, right? They don't trust the robots. They don't even trust the AI nowadays. The face-to-face consultation still play dominance in China. So unfortunately, telehealthcare doesn't really work in China. It's becoming very, very sub functions for the health tech. But if you look at what happened, the healthcare integration with other sectors becoming very popular in China, right? Say there's a way you can building a healthcare e-commerce platform. That was we already seen few public company in China who built that business very successful, and also delivery the medical devices, medicines as a delivery services becoming very popular in China as well, right? That's one part, to integrate with the supply chain, to integrate with the e-commerce. Second part is the financial part, right? The embedded with a fintech, with the financial services of the health services. That's also the other path people choose to go in China, right? And to work with the insurance company, to work with to building the payment solution for the health sectors, right? That's one of the paths as well. And the other one I'm seeing here is the digital transformation for the traditional health sectors, right? To helping the doctors to digitize their workflows, right? A lot of old, senior doctors in China, they still get used to pen and paper to write down the health records, right? To do the prescriptions, right? And how to digitize that becoming a big job over there. And also building a modern digital front face for traditional health institutions. That's one of the paths to go as well.
Okay, thank you. And so for the third question, isn't it confusing for customers to have all this service offered within a single app? And how is the communication strategy designed to encourage the adoption of such a super app? And what is the key message conveyed?
Z2 is focusing to the fashion sectors in Nigeria. There is a platform for the makeups, right? There's a platform for the beauty products as well, right? And let's to Alibaba, right? Alibaba was built in 1919. First is Yellow Page to introduce Chinese business outside to the world, right? Just translating the business in China to the outside world. Then they sold the product and closed down that. Then build the Taobao, which is eBay in China, right? And after the eBay, they built the Amazon version of e-commerce platform in China. Then they built Alipay. It's similar to Stripe, as I mentioned. It's like Stripe to eBay, right? And 2008, when they take off, right, they started building the Tmall, which is the B2C platform, allowed brands directly sell their product to the users, right? And they had this single day festival in China, which building from the ground. It already becoming one of the largest consumer shopping days in China. already beyond the Black Fridays in the West, right? And 2014, and they becoming one of the IPO largest IPO in the history. That was 2014, and then they start to start to their super app process. By building a super app, they acquire some of the a lot of the O2O services and also building their own O2O services already. And nowadays they're already becoming another Amazon, right? And beyond Amazon in China, they have their payment as a digital infrastructure. They have their cloud. Ali Cloud is one of the largest players in China compared to Huawei, compared to AWS, right? And probably the third largest in the world already. And they are also building some of the AI infrastructures in China today, right? If you look at the evolution path, it's start from very traditional B2B, yellow page, then becoming to a eBay, then they start to becoming an ecosystem which has a B2C and C2C logistic, right, and payment integration. Now they have a cloud AI, even they have a movie, entertainment, health tech related sectors integrate to their whole ecosystems, right? No doubt, Alibaba still one of the largest internet player in China, and they dominate the market. They still dominate the market. They still have the most active users in terms of the digital commerce in China, even in the world. And a single day is already historically one of the largest shopping event in the world, right? And they have trillions of the GMV yearly, and the market cap it's already ranking in the top in terms of the share values, right? And they own 70% of the e-commerce shares in China. That was the screenshot again I took today. From the left, it's Alibaba. The second one is their delivery solution, right? Fast delivery solution. The third one is the social e-commerce platform they're trying to build in order to compete with TikTok in China. And the other ones for the international market, first one is AliExpress. I think a lot of you guys are already familiar with. The other ones, the new one, it's not the new one, it's the another important product they're trying to push to the market, a global market. It's called 168.8, which link you directly to the manufacturers or the regional suppliers. So to compare, I would say 168.8 is cheaper than the AliExpress, but requires the volume, right? The other one is JD. JD took the different things. They start from the offline to sell the components, right? To digital components, computers, PCs in Beijing, right? During the COVID, they building the website, start to do a B2C business model. Most of the products still the electronics, home appliance. They sourcing either from themselves or from the factory directly, not like Taobao. Everyone can build their own shop on Taobao, right? And 2009, they built the delivery logistic. Ali doesn't have their own logistic team, but Jingdong has their own logistic. So if you compare to Jingdong to others, Jingdong is quite asset heavy model, right? 2014, JD Jingdong listed in Nasdaq, right, and it's becoming the second largest e-commerce platform in China, right? And then they start to separate their digital health, separate the warehousing, logistic, and the digital, the fintech subsidiaries separately, spin out them separately. And I think JD warehouse or supply chain was listed 2 years ago, right? So they already have like 2 or 3 public company. So if you in China, if you compare Alibaba and Jingdong, the Jingdong has most of the quality product. People thinking Jingdong always offer better quality to Taobao because they start from the B2C type of model, right? And also because the way they start the business by selling the PCs, computers, right, and the electronics, right? The quality of the product always being good things to them, right? And also once they build their built logistic, they promise to the first tier city they can do a 1 day delivery. Then they become in competition to offer a good delivery to most of the logistic company and the e-commerce platform, right? And also they're one of the first e-commerce platform thinking to go to the lower tier market, right? So if you look at the competitive edge, they own their own warehouse and delivery team, and also the quality is something they're very focused, right? And also compared to the customer service, Jingdong always the best customer services, and obviously the price on Jingdong is a bit expensive compared to AliExpress. Compared to Alibaba. That was the screenshot I took from Jingdong today. If you look at all the e-commerce platform or super apps, they're very similar. The way how they lay out and the way how they deliver the message to the customer is very similar. And that's also how the Chinese customer users get trained or get used to this type of a product design. The other one, very interesting one, is Pinduoduo, right? Temu, one of the fast-growing app in Nigeria or in a lot of the African countries, right? And also, recently news, South Africa government was trying to ask them to pay more tax for the small packages come to South Africa, right? And they start from the group buying, which is something I saw a lot of African. Not like a lot. I think African startups trying to build, right? We all know like the order value in Africa is very low, and it was very low in China as well. So by aggregate the order together, it becoming one of the major way to do business for digital commerce nowadays, right? One of the interesting part is they got the Tencent investment in a very early stage. So that's why you can share the Pinduoduo with your friends through WeChat, right? Post on your WeChat page so people can see it, right? If they don't have that, they won't be that easy to build this group buy mechanism, right? If Tencent doesn't invest, Tencent won't allow them to share the information, share the link outside the WeChat that easily. Right? And also, they after 3 years since they founded, they already becoming one of the IPO company listed on Nasdaq with 500 million users. Right, 3 years from day one to be listed to IPO. That's really a fast speed, right? And 20. They are becoming market leaders, right? Surpassed Alibaba's valuation on the market already, right? And to 2022, they start to do the grocery part and also start to building a community group buy features nowadays, right? And they are the different strategy they use is to grow their business in the tier 3 and tier 4 cities, right? And then start from tier 3, tier 4s, going to the tier 1 cities, right? And also by leverage the social features, they're using the social viral growth to be able to really quickly to build their user base, right? And also be able to work with the agriculture sectors, right? To helping the farmers to deliver the product out to that was one of the major strategy they're using. And also one of the most crazy part is the gamification process, right? And if you opened up your Pinduoduo team, there's always a lot of gamification features coming out, which is a bit annoying to me already. Ask me to share this to other friends, to 3 or 4 more friends. I get another $2 red pocket or coupons, right? And that's how they really leverage this type of user experiences to gamify using gamification to engage with the users, right? So they are one of the market disruptors to the digital commerce, because before people were already thinking Taobao, Jingdong already dominated the place. There's no more room for other players, right? But if you find right product market fit, right, there's always a room for you to disrupt the top 1 and 2 players in the market, right? That was the screenshot I took for the Pinduoduo. Again, the main page is very similar to others already, and if you look at the page on the right, that's how the gamification process they're trying to play, right? To get the coupons, to do some challenge, $1 to lottery process, $1 lottery gamification, right? That was the growth hack strategy they play. They're playing. So key insights from the e-commerce sectors, right? And always becoming a platform, right? Not just building that was Taobao's, Alibaba's strategy, right? Becoming a platform, right? So that's how they can defeat eBay, Amazon in China, right? And the vertical integration, which is JD, right? Self-operation, becoming run the logistic themselves in order to control the quality, right? But that requires a lot of investment as well, right? And also supply chain integration. If you look at what happened to the business in China, all the digital commerce already deeply integrated to the supply chain, right? And also if you look at what Shein trying to do, was crazy integration to all the fashion small and medium-sized factories in China, because the way they do the digital process, so they can really give the small and medium-sized factories huge amount of orders, right? And in order to get the low to reduce the cost, right? And the Pinduoduo's C2M, direct to factory model, direct to farmer to the model, that works as well to reduce the cost, to improve the service, to improve the quality of the services, right? And also user experience is always the priorities to internet companies in China, right? They do a lot of A/B tests. They run a lot of growth hack, trying to do a tiny pivot in order to let user to using the application to increase the satisfaction rate, right? And also the emerging market impact, right? If you look at the other part of the world, there's similar players already exist and trying to borrow the models from the e-commerce players in China, right? And remember, guys, when you design product, right, considering each user only have 24 hours, right? Your competition with others is within the 24 hours frameworks, right? So to grab the user's time, attention, it's one of the core competition, user growth hackers strategies you have to pay attention to, right? And also adapt the framework to international market as well, right? That's how Temu and Shein becoming popular in the globally. Any question at this moment?
Yeah, there is a question. So beyond using smart tech and having access to a huge population, what other key strategy or mindsets have helped China's top companies grow fast and stand out from the crowd?
So if I speak as VC, right? So when we look at startup, be able to building a good product, understand the human behaviors. That's one of the things your product team or you have to really do it. And second, I think it's very important things to a lot of the Chinese startups to be able to survive is the capabilities to raise money, right? If you're not able to keep raising money, you won't be able to stand out in the huge competition war in China, right? That also happened to Africa. and to other countries as well, right? One of the key things for us to look at the founder is, are they able to raise more money? Are they able to convince more investors, right? That was thing. And also find your partners, right? Find good partners to work with, to leverage their network, to leverage their platform. That was another way to be able to build, to grow your business fast. Hey, David, you have a question?
Yes, Jerry. Thank you so much for the presentation. So,
Hi.
Hey, Stephen, let David do first. You're the second.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Jerry, for the presentation. So I wanted to get your input as in the e-commerce space. So I've in my business, I've recently been able to secure a partnership with Alibaba where I will put my products on the store. So one of the things that I've understood for my business is that I only have 2 products in my line, and in the 2 products, Alibaba gives a chance to put more than 1,000 products in a single store. These stores in Africa are actually very few, and even in my country, we have even less than 100 products for my own country. Do you suggest in the same store? Is it a good practice to have other products where I source the products that are most likely needed in the global market, or in the stores, let's say Alibaba itself, then source them from other producers, put them in my store, and then then trade and make use of it that way. Because what I feel is that what I feel it might not be a good thing to leave. To only put 2 products in a store, and then if I have a chance to put over 1,000, and let's say in Africa we don't have that chance to sell our products, most African entrepreneurs don't have a chance to get a store on Alibaba, then I think that could be, is it not a good practice to put same kind of products that are needed in the market?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, David, for sharing this. I think that's definitely the way how everyone can try to collaborate with Alibaba, right? If you adapt this. Hi, Stephen.
Jerry, thank you very much. The session was quite eye-opening and inspiring. All right, so my name is Stephen. I'm founder of Logitrack Africa, an e-logistics company in Lagos, Nigeria. All right, so as you have said, African market is very peculiar to Africa, and is quite very different. It's even very different from China market, different from the European market. So for instance, from what you said here earlier, in emerging markets, you talked about Jumia. One of the problems that Jumia is still having now in Africa is to attain profitability. And so that is, I tell my team here that is instructive to any African that is building any business, that it is not just about importing solutions from other countries, but it's about understanding the African market and the language and the culture. So now, what are the expectations of VCs from African market? Because most times I also believe that one of the reasons why most founders in Africa that raise funds, one of the reasons why they don't get to optimize the funds very well enough, or is because of the expectations that VCs put upon them. Maybe because they have a startup that they have invested in China, and they can turn around that investment in social number of years, or in Europe they can turn around that investment in social number of years, and they are now expecting, or this Silicon Valley model and all that, they are now expecting that to happen in Africa. So for instance, what we do in Logitrack is working with we saw a market gap. We understood that the trucking sector in Nigeria is basically run by inexperienced guy, and we want to how do I put it now? Our vision is to make it, to simplify that process and also formalize it as an informal sector and also to formalize the process. But we have a lot of 90 to 95% of people that operate in that sector are quite informal. And we've had a lot of logistics startup companies that have raised millions of capital from VCs. We have not raised, we have been bootstrapping. We've had a lot of logistics startups that have raised millions of nairas, millions of dollars, and they've not still been able to crack this code. So, and we are building a streetwide technology. So what exactly are VCs expecting from African startups? Because our market is kind of different. And we need patient capital and all that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question. It's a hard question, right? I don't have the right answer at this moment. Just from myself, right? We are more like financial driven type of investors, right? Not 100% like it. Well, not like very much impact driven of investors. So our KPI is very simple. It's calculated on the returns, right? How are we able to make money on our investment? That's a KPI we have to face, right? So that's also guide our investment as well, in that case, right? So then that becoming something we have, like, if you face me, I have to think about when you can generate the exit events for me, so I can invest. So my investment can exit, so I can return back the money to my investors, right? So the focus is very different. So when you looking at the, well, again, when you guys looking at the VCs, right, trying to find the right VCs, have to think where the shoes of the VC. What are they trying to do? Are we really going to match in terms of the investment thesis, in terms of the business model, right? To find the right fit for your investment. That's very important, right? And also your question, back to your question, I think Jumia, it's very different because they're in the stage. Well, if you look at a lot of the technology startups on the Nasdaq, right, on the New York Exchange, a lot of them are not making the money. They're still losing the profit, right? So at certain stage, the company has a different goal. They raise money because they want to grow, to expand fast, right, in order to make more money in the future, right? So different stage, they have the different goals, right? For that cases, they might not really require to be a break-even company for themselves, right? But I don't know, I'm not the board, I'm not the investor of Jumia, so I know their business model, I know their business, but I don't know their core strategy and all the requirement from the investors, right? So there is a different stage. But for a lot of early stage startup in Africa, right, and to be able to survive is very important, especially we're still in the fundraising winter, right? The liquidity on the market is still not that much compared to 2021, 2022. So we have to be able to survive. That's the core at this moment. In order to survive, you have to make sure you very efficient. So yeah, so just back to the question, at the different stage, especially early stage, to be able to survive, to be able to that's the very important things. If you can find more way to raise money, right? So yeah, I don't have like really answer. I just trying to say different stage you have different focus, and a different time there's the different problem you have to face, right? Like the lack of the liquidity, that was the big issue we have to face at this moment. So be able to try to survive at this moment. Yeah, and maybe next one, Arif.
Hello, Jerry. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Jerry, for a very insightful presentation and the masterclass. I'm Arif Kinasha, the CEO of Aerovolt Tanzania Limited, an IPP, an independent producing and energy company in Tanzania. I was very much intrigued by the discussion in relation to Fintech, mainly because I also have some experience in there. So I do believe it's a very good agenda to try to adapt African countries towards fintech advancement and being able to also adapt to the evolution all the way to being able to carefully also integrate e-commerce into the overall economic approach of these African countries. But then my biggest question is, since we think of Africa as a unified entity, or I would say a unified group of individuals that are looking forward to adapt to fintech and e-commerce and so forth, we still have so many layers of regulatory authorities, and currently we do not yet have a unified mechanism of being able to adapt to fintech or e-commerce generally as Africa, because it's a continent with so many countries inside. So do we have any approach that's used for different case studies of different countries and different regulatory mechanisms that are governing these different countries that can help maybe something like a forum or a way to also extend this effort of adapting to e-commerce and fintech to more than just the entrepreneurs who are looking to expand in these sectors. So the entrepreneur will be inspired and they will learn and they will research and they will have their ideas on how to actually implement it. But then when we go back to the regulatory levels of each and every entrepreneur themselves, and if the solution is targeted towards an entrepreneur in Africa, then the case study might change and it might vary. So in that case, is it possible to have, because last time I spoke to some of the fintech experts within the country when I attended the e-commerce training, the first training, and the question was, is it possible to have something like that brought to Tanzania? I'm from Tanzania. So they were asking, because these are some of the people in the regulatory level. So they coordinate VC spaces, incubation spaces within Tanzania. So they were wondering, since we're targeting individuals, and that's a very distinct layer by itself. So how do we first, as you have said, even on the VC aspect, that the perspective gap is bigger and people do not really comprehend these things. So it also highly affects the entrepreneurs if the regulators do not catch up with the speed of entrepreneurs. So I hope.
Yeah, I hear your question. It's hard still, right? Regulatory, they are regulators, right? So they always lag behind the innovations, right? Because that's how the traditional way to think, right? So first you have to keep building using technology to disrupt, right? And also always keep up the windows, right, open to communicate with relevant departments, not just the government, right? You need to talk to say telecoms, right? And if that's one of the player potentially going to involve, and also talk to the banks, right? And central banks, and also the different department, right? And also I think there are a few conferences happening in different countries or regionally, and that was the place to express the opinions always, right? And again, like in China, right, always talk to the banks, always opened up the conversation with the governments, right? The specific the fintech compliance department and also the technology departments, right? To always it takes time, takes efforts to lobby, to be a lobbyist, to let them to think about the changes, right? And as the speed of the technology develop, right? And always in any countries, it's always like the compliance always lag behind the innovation speed. So I don't have an answer, but you need to be the one or find a group of the people to keep convince the governments to pay attention, to put more efforts to the innovation stuff. Do we have more questions?
Yeah,
yes.
I do have a question. Hi. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna just reference on. I'm gonna use a reference on Pinduoduo, Taobao, and the rest, like, right, in terms of e-commerce and social commerce, right? So I've seen there are so many variations comparing, like, in terms of the markets, the Chinese market and African market, right? And I think I've dropped some series of questions in related to that. We've seen, I'll use Jumia as a case study, right, for the African market. Jumia entered this market early with enough capital, global banking, and a first mover advantage. But when we looked at it, they still struggle to achieve sustainable unit economics, right? And despite that, it shows that distribution alone isn't enough, especially in a market like Africa, where the purchasing power is low, logistics are fragmented, and many users still can afford basic essentials, right? So I think as on a VC side, I would like to write down, what will you need to see in the current African e-commerce or social commerce startup to believe it can avoid the same fate and become really successful story better than Jumia?
Right. Thank you very much. It's a good question, right? So if you look at the Jumia, I think there's two indication to me, right? First one, money is good, right? So if you're able to raise money, you have a chance to run fast in a competition, right? So that's one of the advantages. They can raise money. I think that's one angle I was looking at. Second, the technology is good, right? Because of the technology, they have the chance to build such a platform from the ground to win some of the business, at least at the early stage, right? That's two good indicators to me, right? So back to the essentials, right? Be able to raise money, to be able to leverage technology. That's a good part. And second part is very similar to what happened to eBay and Amazon in China, right? So there's every country, every place, even every city, they have their own unique situations, right? Be able to adapt and integrate to the local systems. That's very important, right? And while Alibaba was trying to copy eBay, and eBay trying to enter to China market in the early stage, right? But eBay didn't win, and the copy of the purely eBay didn't win. Alibaba win the competition, right? Just because they deep down to the local system, right? They build this we call Iron Team in China. This team goes to the market to lock the door physically one by one to open up the market, right? That's something I don't think eBay or Amazon are able to do in China. That's applied to Africa, same, right? You have to leverage your local forces, right, to help you to grow your business fast, right? Rather than copying everything using all the methodology from other countries. So you adapt the methods, you adapt the good part, but still integrate to the local system and build your own operations by understanding the local cultures, local mechanisms, right? And also the capital, right? And international capital is very expensive considering how Naira depreciate from 2 years ago up to today, right? Able to find some local capital. That's also a way to help you to win the competition, right? So yeah, and for me, I'm still trust building deep into the local system, right? And that was a key competitive edge. Other international players won't be able to do.
Okay, I think I totally get you in terms of building. I think we could use the open infrastructure as an example, right? In Nigeria as of today, I think open started as a ride-hailing service, and moved down. They grew from a ride-hailing service down to OPay Food, and grew down to one of the biggest fintechs in Nigeria, right? But the truth is, right, yeah, liquidity in Africa is the game changer for anything. Without liquidity, you can't play, right? We've seen how the growth process of OPay, they use the local knowledge, but despite that, they need liquidity, and we've seen that raising capital right now in Africa is brutal. You need to show. We've seen business venture VCs looking for $5,000, $10,000 MRR, month-to-month growth. The average, some VCs are looking for $500,000 ARR, right? So I think for VCs, right, what are you looking for? What's that growth you're looking for as of today? Like, I'm just putting that to you, Jerry, right? Because you stated earlier on that you are not impact, you are more of generating revenue, right? What's that growth are you looking for businesses, startups that are trying to play in the commerce space? We know that the commerce space is growing. We see how Temu is penetrating into the markets in Africa. They're growing so fast. Even I have ordered from Temu several times, right? And I see that any startup that is going to play in that space right now, because Jumia, like Jumia, have paved the way where we can come in and play. As a VC, what are you looking at, right? What's that thing that's going to attract you and say, okay, these guys are what's my every dollar?
Right. So that's only represent my own opinion, right? So for me, I'm looking at the unique economy, right? Especially at this stage, you need to have a really good unique economy, right? To make sure you have a way to be able to sustainable, right? And also, of course, you're from Nigeria, right? So that's the biggest market. If you cannot grow faster than others, what's the point to run business in Nigeria, right? So growth rate, the user acquisition rate, and also and that's very important to me if you're a Nigeria company, right? And also the way you the way you different with others, right? Doesn't matter. It's a people different. It's a product different. The way you can show the evidence, you understand the market better than others, and you have your own unique pills to fix the problem, right? That was something I'm looking at, especially to the early stage. And again, the capability, if you can raise more money to attract from different VCs, that's one of the things we have to look at as well.
Do we have more questions?
There is another question in the discussion board. So, are there cross-border e-commerce company currently bringing Chinese products to Africa? It would be helpful, especially in terms of products affordability and quality, logistic development, and technology adoption.
Yeah, there are a few, right? Like Alibaba, AliExpress 1688 from Alibaba, and also there's the Gate from ConsenSys. There are tons of the product trying to build the platform trying to build the product to for Africans to looking for Chinese supply chains, right? You have to try. And still, I feel like the information gap still exists between China and Africa, right? And a lot of people still not able to really access to the factories or to really deeply integrate to the China supply chain system. So yes, you can try the platform, but it still takes a bit of time to find the right supply chain partners to work with. But I think there will be more and more solutions coming in the future. It doesn't matter if it's built by Chinese or built by Africans, but there will be a solution for sure. So I think we already have 2 hours. So probably I'll just share two most important sectors in China for today's lecture. So next week I'm going to share the rest of them, and some of them are not very long. Like the AI sector, it's a bit different story, but just worth to say something in China, maybe something you haven't get a chance to, or you won't be able to find much more information online. So that was something I'm going to share with you guys.